I don't respect you the way I used to, she said calmly during an argument. I nodded slowly, then showed her what life looks like without me in it. Months later, she tried to come back, but by then, I had already moved on completely. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. I don't respect you the way I used to, she said it the way someone announces the weather. Calm, flat, like she was reading a grocery list, not dismantling 4 years of my life in 11 words. I remember the exact moment. The kitchen light was humming the way it always did when it needed a new bulb. Her arms were crossed. Her jaw was set. And she was looking at me the way you look at something mildly inconvenient, like a traffic cone in the middle of a parking lot. Not with anger, not even with sadness, just with this quiet, settled certainty. And I think that's what broke something in me. Not the words themselves, though those hit hard enough, but the tone, the absolute absence of emotion in it. Because if she'd screamed it at me, I could have fought back. If she'd cried it at me, I could have held her. But she said it like she'd already made peace with it. Like she'd already grieved whatever she used to feel for me and was just now informing me of the funeral arrangements. I didn't say anything for a long moment. I just looked at her, and then I nodded, slowly, once. Not because I agreed, not because I thought she was right, but because something settled in me too, right in that second. A decision. Quiet. Cold. Final. We'd been together for 4 years at that point. Living together for 2. I was 31. She was 29. Her name was Claire. And up until about 8 months before that kitchen argument, I had genuinely believed I was going to marry this woman. The argument that night had started over something stupid. She'd asked me to call the landlord about the broken heating unit in the bedroom. I had forgotten. Twice. I'll own that. I was swamped at work. We'd had back-to-back long weeks, and it slipped through the cracks. But I apologized. I told her I'd call first thing the next morning. She looked at me like I'd just told her I'd eaten her leftovers. You always say that, she said. And then nothing happens. Claire, I said, I'm sorry. I'm not looking for an apology, she cut in. I just need things to actually get done. And that would have been fine. That would have been a reasonable frustration. I could have heard that. But then she kept going. I feel like I'm the only adult in this apartment sometimes. I blinked. That's not fair. Maybe not, she said with a shrug. But it's how I feel. We went back and forth for a bit. Nothing explosive. Just that low, grinding kind of argument that doesn't really escalate. It just erodes. And then, at some point, she said it. I don't respect you the way I used to. Out of nowhere. Like she'd just been holding it in her pocket all along, waiting for the right moment. I felt my stomach drop. Not dramatically. It wasn't a movie moment. It was just that specific, internal sinking that happens when you hear something you can't unhear. What does that mean? I asked. She sighed. Like the question itself was exhausting. It means exactly what it sounds like, she said. I used to think you were someone who handled things, who followed through, who could be counted on. And lately, she paused, shook her head. I just don't see that anymore. I stood there, processing, and I nodded. Once. Okay, I said. Not loudly, not angrily. Just okay. She seemed to expect more from me. Some defense, some argument, some desperate push to convince her she was wrong. But I had nothing. Not because she'd broken me, but because something had just become very, very clear. She went to bed. I stayed in the kitchen. And I thought about what she'd said for a long, long time. Here's the thing about disrespect. It doesn't always show up wearing its name tag. It doesn't always come with slammed doors and raised voices and obvious cruelty. Sometimes it trickles in quietly, casually, in little moments you almost don't notice until you look back and realize you've been flinching for months. With Claire, it started maybe a year into us living together. Small things at first. She'd correct me in front of her friends. Not gently, not privately, right there at the dinner table mid-story. No, that's not what happened. Or, you always exaggerate. I'd laugh it off. Because that's what you do. You assume good intentions. You tell yourself it's not a big deal. Then it became the way she talked about my job. I work in logistics management. Nothing glamorous, I'll admit. But I'm good at it. And I was getting promoted steadily. But Claire had this thing where she described what I did to people in this almost apologetic tone. Like she was covering for me. He does logistics. It's not as boring as it sounds. That kind of thing. I noticed. I didn't say anything. I should have. Then there were the comparisons. Her coworker's boyfriend bought a house at 28. Her friend's husband takes her on 3 vacations a year. Her cousin's partner just started his own business, and it was really taking off. She never said it directly, She never sat me down and said, "I want more than what you're giving." It was always sideways, always wrapped in a tone that sounded like admiration for someone else, but landed like criticism toward me. I let all of it go, every single time, because I loved her, because I thought that was what you did. You held space for your partner's frustrations, even when they were directed at you. But what I didn't understand, not until that night in the kitchen, was that my silence had taught her something. It had taught her there was no floor, no point where I'd push back, no limit where I'd say, "That's enough." And when someone learns there's no floor to how they can treat you, they stop watching their step. I didn't say anything to her the next morning. I called the landlord because I said I would. I went to work. I came home. We ate dinner across from each other. She seemed fine. A little distant, maybe. But Claire often moved on from arguments faster than I did. She had this ability to compartmentalize, to close a door on a conflict and just resume normal life that I used to find impressive. Now it felt like erasure, like what she'd said the night before had just been data, an observation, filed away, nothing more. I watched her scroll her phone while she ate, and I thought, she doesn't even know what she started. I kept that thought quiet, kept my face neutral, kept the routine going. But inside, I had already begun to pull back. Not in a dramatic, obvious way, not in a way she'd notice right away, but I pulled back. It's the only way I know how to describe it. Like when you're holding a rope and you've been gripping it tight for years, and then one day, you just loosen your fingers. Slowly, deliberately, and you wait to see how long it takes before the other person feels the slack. The first thing I did was stop initiating. Not just with affection, with everything. I stopped suggesting where we'd go for dinner. I stopped asking about her week unprompted. I stopped making the small plans I used to make. Weekend trips, little surprises, the stuff that keeps a relationship feeling alive. I wasn't cold. I wasn't mean. I was just present, in a neutral, surface-level way. Responsive when spoken to, quiet when not. A week passed. She didn't notice. Or if she did, she didn't say anything. 2 weeks. She mentioned once that I seemed off. "Just tired from work," I said. She nodded and went back to whatever she was watching. Another week. And then I made the next decision. I called my buddy Owen. Owen and I had been friends since college. The kind of friend who will tell you the truth even when you don't want to hear it, and who you trust precisely because of that. We met for beers on a Thursday evening. I told him what she'd said. All of it. He was quiet for a second. Then, "How did you respond?" I just nodded. He looked at me. "That's all. That's all." He took a slow sip. "So what are you going to do?" "I don't know yet," I said. "But something's changed. I can feel it. Like a switch flipped." "Does she know?" "No." Owen set his glass down. "You know what the problem with guys like you is? Guys like me. Guys who swallow everything. Who keep the peace. Who tell themselves they're being the bigger person. The problem is you wait too long. You let it build until you've already emotionally checked out. And then by the time you actually say something, you're not saying it to fix things. You're saying it to close them." I thought about that for a long moment. "Maybe," I said. "Are you at that point?" he asked. I didn't answer right away. "I think so," I said finally. Owen nodded slowly. "Then stop waiting," he said. "Either fix it or leave it. But sitting in the middle helps nobody." I drove home that night with his words rattling around in my head. I decided to try one thing first. Not because I thought it would work, but because I needed to know, for my own peace of mind, that I'd given it a real shot. That I hadn't just walked away without trying. I picked a Saturday morning when things were calm. No tension in the air. She was in a good mood, laughing at something on her phone, still in pajamas, hair still messy. I sat across from her at the kitchen table with 2 cups of coffee. She looked up. "Hey," she said. "Hey," I said. "Can we talk about something?" She set her phone down. "Okay." I took a breath. "The other night, when you said you don't respect me the way you used to, I've been thinking about it a lot, and I'd like to understand what changed. Not to argue, not to defend myself. I genuinely want to know." Something crossed her face. Hard to read. She looked down at her coffee cup. "I just said what I was feeling in the moment," she said. "Maybe it came out harsher than I meant it to. Maybe. But did you mean it?" A pause. "I don't know," she said. "I think. I've just been frustrated lately. And it builds up. And sometimes it comes out sideways. I can understand that. But Claire, I need you to understand how that lands. I don't respect you the way I used to isn't something you say sideways. That's something that changes things." She looked at me. "Are you saying it changed things for you?" "I'm saying I need to know if this is fixable. If we can talk about what's actually going on with you, not as a vent, but as a real conversation. Because if you're genuinely losing respect for me, I need to know that." and I need to know why. And then we can figure out what to do." She was quiet for a moment, long enough that I thought maybe something was shifting. Maybe she was finally going to open up, really open up. But then she said, "I think I just need things to feel more balanced. Like I'm not carrying everything." And I waited, because there was clearly more. But she picked up her coffee. And that was it. That was the whole thing. "More balanced," I said. "What does that look like to you?" "I don't know," she said. "Just more? From you. More. No specifics. No examples. No willingness to actually dig into it. Just more." I nodded, finished my coffee, and something in me went very, very still. Not angry still, just quiet, like a room after the last sound has faded. I want to be honest about something here, because if you're listening to this and thinking, well, maybe she had a point, maybe she did, about the landlord thing, about me dropping some balls here and there. I'm not perfect. Nobody is. But here's what I also know. I had been carrying things in that relationship for years, things that never got acknowledged. I worked long hours to cover expenses while she was between jobs for 7 months. I quietly absorbed her stress during her career change without complaint. I showed up for her, her bad days, her family drama, her friendship falling outs, her anxiety, her moments of self-doubt. I had been her person, fully and consistently, for 4 years. And the first time I dropped one ball, one thing on a long list, what she chose to say was, "I don't respect you the way I used to." Not, "I'm frustrated." Not, "I need more support." Not, "Can we talk about what's been slipping?" Respect. A word she chose very specifically. A word that means something. And she'd said it without hesitation, without apology. And then when I came to her calmly, without blame, asking her to help me understand, she couldn't give me a single concrete thing. Just more. That was the moment I knew. Not that she was a bad person, but that she didn't see me. Not really. Not the way you have to see someone to build a real life with them. And if she didn't see me after 4 years, she was never going to. I started making moves. Quietly. Efficiently. No announcement. No ultimatum. I just began arranging my exit the way you'd pack a bag for a long trip, methodically, without drama, one item at a time. First, I called around about apartments. I hadn't lived alone since my mid-20s, and I'd be lying if I said it didn't scare me a little. But I found a place, a 1-bedroom about 20 minutes from work. Clean building. Good light. Reasonable rent. I put down the deposit. Second, I quietly began separating our finances. We'd had a joint account for shared expenses, utilities, groceries, rent. I stopped putting extra into it. Just my share. No more quietly covering her portion when she was short. No more just handling it and not telling her. Just my half. Exactly. Third, I told my mom. That was the hardest one, honestly. My mom liked Claire. More than liked, she'd sort of adopted her. And I didn't want to do it over the phone, so I drove out to see her one Sunday afternoon. I told her what had been happening. All of it. She listened without interrupting. When I was done, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I've watched you fold yourself up for her for a long time, baby. And that hit me in a way I wasn't prepared for. I kept waiting for you to get tired," she said. "Looks like you finally did." I didn't cry in front of her, but I came close. She hugged me for a long time. And she said, "You don't have to stay somewhere you're not valued. That's not loyalty. That's just pain with a long name." I drove home with that sitting in my chest. About a week before I planned to tell Claire, something happened that I hadn't expected. She brought someone up at dinner. A guy from her work. She'd mentioned him before, casually, in passing. But now she was talking about him more. How funny he was. How he'd said this thing that made the whole office laugh. How he'd organized this team outing that had been actually really fun. I listened. I asked polite questions. So that's what's actually happening. I don't know if she had fully crossed a line or not. I decided it didn't matter. Because what I saw in those messages told me something more important than whether anything physical had happened. It told me where her attention had been going, where her energy had been quietly redirecting. While I was not following through at home, while I was not balanced enough, while I was apparently losing her respect, she had been finding something, or someone, that gave her that feeling of being lit up again. And maybe she hadn't admitted it to herself yet. Maybe she was still calling it just a work friend. But I knew. And I also knew that confronting her about it would turn this into a different story. A messier one. One where she got to be defensive, and I got to seem paranoid, and suddenly the whole thing became about whether I'd violated her privacy by checking her phone. I didn't want that story. I wanted a clean exit. So I waited 4 more days. I finished moving the last of my important things out quietly, some to my car, some to Owen's garage. I transferred my portion of the month's rent to Claire so she'd be covered. I arranged for my mail to start forwarding. And then, on a Tuesday evening, not a weekend, not a special night, I sat down with her when she got home from work. She set her bag down, kicked off her shoes. "Hey," she said. "How was your day?" "Good," I said. "Sit down for a second?" She looked at me. Something in my tone, maybe. She sat. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," I said, "since that night in the kitchen. And I've thought about it from every angle I know how to. And I've come to a conclusion." She was very still. "We should end this," I said. "Not I think we should. Not maybe we need a break. Just, we should end this. Flat. Clear. Final." She blinked. "What?" "I think we've run our course," I said. "I don't think we're good for each other anymore. And I think deep down, you know that too." Wait. Is this about what I said? The respect thing? Because I told you that came out wrong. It came out exactly the way you meant it," I said. "Not cruelly. Just honestly." She opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. "So you're just deciding this? After 4 years? Just like that?" "Not just like that," I said. "I've been watching things shift for a while. I've been trying to make sense of it. And I tried to have a real conversation about it. You didn't really want to have that conversation." I know. I'm not blaming you. I'm just telling you where I landed." She stood up, sat back down. Her hands were in her lap, fingers laced tight. "Where is this coming from?" she asked. "It's coming from me finally listening to you," I said. "You told me you don't respect me the way you used to. I heard that. And I've decided I don't want to be in a relationship where I'm not respected. So, that's not, I didn't mean, Claire." She stopped. "You meant it," I said again, quietly. "And that's okay. People change. Feelings change. I'm not angry at you. But I'm leaving." She looked at me for a long moment. And I watched her cycle through something. Some internal calculation. And then her eyes got wet. And she said, "I don't want you to leave." And here's the thing that surprised me most. Not what she said, but how I felt hearing it. Because I waited for that old reflex to kick in. That familiar pull. The one that makes you want to close the distance, reach out, say, okay, we'll figure it out." I waited for it. And it didn't come. There was just quiet. "I know," I said, "but I'm going." I spent that first night in my new apartment sitting on the floor. I didn't have furniture yet, just a sleeping bag I'd picked up, and a bag of clothes, and my laptop. I ordered a pizza, ate it in the dark, and I didn't feel sad exactly. I felt like someone who'd been carrying something very heavy for a very long time and had finally set it down. Not relief, not celebration, just absence of weight, and the strange, quiet freedom of space. She texted me that night. "Can we please talk tomorrow?" I read it. Didn't respond. She texted again 2 hours later. "I'm not ready for this to be over." I read it. Didn't respond. And then, at around midnight, "I'm sorry about what I said. I've been going through something and I took it out on you, and that wasn't fair." That one I stared at for a while. Going through something. I thought about the text threads on her phone. I thought about the way she'd talked about that coworker. I thought about all the little sideways moments over the past year. And I thought about going through something. I didn't respond to any of them. I closed my eyes. And I slept, genuinely, deeply, for the first time in months. The weeks that followed were strange in a way I hadn't anticipated. Not painful, not easy, just strange. Like being in a place where the furniture has been rearranged and you keep reaching for something in the wrong spot. Muscle memory has a long half-life. I'd wake up and the quiet would take a second to register. No sounds from the other side of the bed. No coffee already brewing. Just me and the hum of the city outside. I took the adjustment seriously. I started running again. Something I'd let go of in the last 2 years of the relationship when I got too comfortable. I started cooking real food instead of whatever was fast and easy. I started going back to the gym. And not in that post-breakup, revenge body way. Not really. More like I was rebuilding something. Reclaiming something. All the small habits I'd quietly abandoned. All the parts of myself I'd let get soft and slow. I didn't do it for her. I did it because I'd been waiting to have a reason to restart, and here it was. Claire kept texting for about 2 weeks after I left. The tone shifted over time. First it was sad. Then it was angry. "You just walked out. You didn't even try." I didn't respond to that one either. Then it was sad again. "I miss you. The apartment feels empty. I think I made a huge mistake." I read every message. I didn't respond to any of them. Not because I was playing games. Not because I wanted her to hurt. But because I'd already said what I needed to say. There was nothing left to add. And every time I felt the flicker of something, that old pull, that old reflex, I'd ask myself one question. Do you want to go back to what it was? And the answer was always the same. No, not even a little. I ran into Owen for dinner about a month in. How are you actually doing? He asked. Better than I expected, I said. That's either healthy or avoidant. Maybe both. He laughed. She's still texting you? Slowed down. About once a week now. He shook his head. Funny how that works. The moment you stop being available, suddenly you're what she wants. Yeah. Does it change anything for you? I thought about it honestly. No, I said. If anything, it confirms that I made the right call. Because if she'd seen my value the way she does now, she should have seen it when I was still there. It shouldn't take me leaving for someone to realize what they had. Owen pointed at me. That right there, he said. That's the answer. About 6 weeks after the breakup, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't pick up, but I did. It was the guy from her work. I'll call him just him, because honestly, he doesn't deserve a name in this story. He said he just wanted me to know that nothing had happened between them, that they were friends, that he felt bad about the situation. I listened to the whole thing, and then I said, I believe you, and it doesn't change anything. Have a good one. And I hung up, because whatever had or hadn't happened between them wasn't the point. The point was that she'd sent him. She'd asked him to call me and explain. And that, somehow, said more than anything else she could have done. That she still needed a story to be okay. Still needed me to have a certain narrative, one where she wasn't the bad guy. And I didn't have the energy to give that to her. Somewhere around month 2, something unexpected happened. I met someone. Not looking for it. Not trying. She was at the gym, had been going for a while, apparently, and we just never crossed paths. Her name was Brooke. She was funny in a dry, understated way that sneaked up on you. She was a physical therapist. She had strong opinions about coffee and terrible taste in movies and an easiness about her that I hadn't felt around someone new in a long, long time. We started talking one evening near the cable machines. Something about form on an exercise. It lasted maybe 10 minutes. But when I got home that night, I was smiling and I didn't fully know why. I didn't pursue it immediately. I didn't want to be that guy, the one who rebounds at full speed and drags someone new into his unprocessed mess. So I gave it time. We kept running into each other. The conversations got longer. She asked me once why I seemed so deliberately alone. I'm not deliberately alone, I said. I'm deliberately taking my time. She nodded. Good answer, she said. And I don't know, something about the way she said it, like she understood exactly what I meant, made me trust her a little more. Month 3. I'd found a rhythm. Work was good, actually great. I'd been given a bigger project, more responsibility. My head was clearer without the constant, low-grade emotional noise that I hadn't fully realized I was living with. Brooke and I had been out a few times, nothing heavy. Dinners. A hike once. That easy thing where you're not performing for someone, you're just being with them. And I noticed I wasn't flinching. I noticed I wasn't careful in that hyper-vigilant way I'd been careful with Claire. Careful not to say the wrong thing. Careful not to let something slip. Careful to seem like enough. With Brooke, I just existed. And it turned out that was enough. Easily, naturally enough. That realization hit me harder than I expected. I remember driving home from dinner one night and thinking, oh, that's what it's supposed to feel like. At around month 3.5, Claire called. Not a text. A call. It was a Saturday afternoon. I was making lunch when my phone lit up with her name. I stood there watching it ring. And then I picked up. Hey, I said. Hey, she said. A pause. How are you? Good, I said. Really good, actually. You. I've been better, she said. Another pause. I've been thinking a lot, she said. About us. About what happened. About what I said that night. Okay. I think I made a mistake, she said. I think I got in my own head and started taking things out on you, and I let someone distract me, and I wasn't fully present with you. And I'm sorry. I am genuinely really sorry. I listened. I let her finish. I appreciate that, I said. And I mean that. I do appreciate you saying it. But, she said. She could hear it. But I'm in a different place now, I said. I've moved on, Claire. Not because I don't care about you. I do. I probably always will on some level. But I'm not in a place where I want to revisit what we had. That chapter's closed for me. A long silence. Is there someone else? She asked. I thought about Brooke. About the easy dinners. About the gym and the smile I'd driven home with. That's not really the point, I said. But yes, I've met someone. And she's good. She's really good. I heard her exhale. Something shaky in it. I need you to know that I see it now, she said. What I had with you. How much you did. How much you gave. I didn't see it when I should have. I know, I said. I believe you. I really do. So why can't we? Because seeing it now doesn't change that you didn't see it then, I said. And it doesn't mean I'm willing to restart something that took that much effort to close. Another silence. Longer this time. I think I lost the best thing I had, she said finally. Quietly, like she was mostly talking to herself. And I felt something. I won't pretend I didn't. Not a pull back toward her, but something like sadness, maybe. For both of us. For the version of us that used to exist. For what it could have been if things had gone differently. If she'd spoken differently. If I'd spoken up sooner. Maybe, I said. But you also have the chance to learn something from it. And so do I. That's what I'm holding on to. She said okay. She said she hoped I was happy. She said goodbye. And I said goodbye. And I sat with the phone in my hand for a moment after the line went dead. Then I put it face down on the counter. And I finished making lunch. I've thought a lot about that kitchen conversation since then. About what those 11 words actually did. I don't respect you the way I used to. I've thought about whether I should have fought harder. Whether I should have pushed back more. Whether there was a version of this where I dug in instead of walked out. And honestly, maybe if I'd pushed back earlier, not at the end, but months before, when the first small disrespect started creeping in, we could have had a real conversation. Maybe if I'd said, you can't talk to me like that in front of people the first time it happened, it wouldn't have become a pattern. Maybe if I'd named what was happening instead of quietly absorbing it, we'd have built something different. I carry that, not as guilt, but as a lesson. Because the thing about being the one who keeps the peace, who swallows, who adjusts, who gives more space than you keep for yourself, is that it feels like love while you're doing it. It feels like patience, like generosity. But eventually, what you've actually done is teach the other person exactly how little you'll accept. And when they hit the bottom of what you'll accept, they're surprised there was a bottom at all. I'm not going to stand here and tell you I came out of this perfect. I'm not going to tell you the next chapter of my life had no bumps in it. It did. There were nights in that apartment in the first month where I'd lie awake and run through the whole thing again, wondering what I missed, what I could have done, whether the ending was actually necessary. There were moments with Brooke, in the early days, where I'd catch myself waiting for the other shoe to drop, waiting for her to say something small and crushing, waiting to feel like, not enough again. That's the tax you pay. That's the invisible damage that long, slow disrespect does. It rewires your baseline. Makes you brace for impact even when the skies are clear. But here's what I know. You can't unlearn something just by knowing it. You heal by being somewhere safe long enough to forget what the danger felt like. And slowly, not all at once, not dramatically, I started to unwind. Started to stop waiting for the drop. Brooke never gave me a reason to brace. Not once. And that, more than anything, reminded me of what I'd been missing. 6 months after I left, I was at Owen's place for a Sunday dinner. His wife had made a massive pot of something that smelled incredible, and there were 4 of us crammed around their too small kitchen table, and the conversation was loud and overlapping and warm. And I remember thinking, mid-laugh at something Owen said, this is what I almost stayed stuck for. This feeling. This ordinary, uncomplicated, genuinely joyful Sunday. I almost chose smallness to keep the peace. I almost stayed in a room where I was shrinking and called it love. And the version of me from a year ago would have nodded and kept the peace and quietly swallowed another moment he should have named. But I got tired. Thank God I got tired. I want to say one thing clearly. Not to her, not to Claire, but to whoever is listening and recognizing something. Recognizing a feeling, a moment, a specific kind of quiet that settles in your chest when you realize the person you love has stopped seeing you. Disrespect isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a tone, a shrug, a word chosen carelessly, a door you should have stopped opening. You don't have to blow things up to protect yourself. You don't have to be dramatic. You don't have to make a speech. But you do have to be honest. With them. And more importantly, with yourself. Because once you've named what's actually happening, you can't unname it. And once you've seen it clearly, really seen it, staying starts to cost more than leaving ever could. The last time I heard from Claire was a message she sent about 2 months after that phone call. She said she'd started therapy, that she was working through some things, that she wanted me to know she was doing okay. I read it. I typed back one line. I'm glad. Take care of yourself. And I meant it. Because I'd stopped being angry. A long time before that, actually. You can only stay angry at someone for the things they couldn't see if you're still waiting for them to see it. I'd stopped waiting. Things with Brooke have been good. Better than good, honestly. But I'm not going to oversell it or wrap it in a bow. It's early enough that I'm still just showing up, day after day, without expectation. Just being someone who knows what he wants, who knows what he won't accept, who has learned the long, slow, costly way that love without respect isn't love. It's just habit. It's just comfort. It's just two people doing what's familiar until one of them finally names what's actually there. She said she didn't respect me the way she used to. And I nodded. Once. Slowly. And then I did the only thing that made sense. I showed her what her life looked like without me in it. Not as revenge. Not as a lesson for her. But as a gift to myself. Because I had spent 4 years giving that relationship everything I had. And I deserved to give that same energy somewhere it would be received. Somewhere it would be seen. Somewhere I wouldn't have to earn my own reflection back. So I left. And I didn't look back. And by the time she finally did, I was already somewhere new. Already someone new. And the door? The door had been closed for a long time.